What's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for joining. Hope you are having a great one as always. And if you can't tell from the boxes in the background, today we are taking a look at the War Story Toys Empire Commandos Assault figure, or Sexy Stormtrooper as I like to call it, because that really is the simplest way to put it. This figure is pretty dang cool. It was about $200, which was a little on the pricey side. You can still find them at some different retailers for around that. The resell that I've seen at the moment is like $240, $250, so not too much of a markup. I initially got it with the intent to kit bash, but I really do like the figure. She's kind of grown on me, and I think she'll be cool to pair up with Commander Rex, give him a nice little lady friend companion. But they did a really good job with the box. Just kind of take a quick glance at it, and if for some reason you wanted to know, it's made in China, and there is a choking hazard, so be careful and all of that good stuff. The brown box that they did was gorgeous. War Story typically does really good brown shippers, which I'm oddly impressed with. I know that's really not anything super amazing, but for me it goes a long way. And they also did a really cool insert with this one, which I will show off real fast. I wonder if I could do this. Well, let's just try and do that. Sorry to cover it up, but there you go in all its glory. I thought that was pretty dang nifty. I like when you get a cool insert. But more importantly, the figure itself. Like I said, she's around $200, so she is a bit pricey. You do get some accessories and some fun stuff with her, but for the most part, it's pretty straightforward. What you see is what you get. You get a whole bunch of different interchangeable hands, so we'll just kind of take a quick glance at these guys here. And they really did do a phenomenal job painting these. That is one thing that I'm going to give them a ton of credit for. They just did an absolutely good job at these. They look fantastic. Super shiny, super glossy. I really like it. So kudos to them in that regards. And then you also just get some good old-fashioned trigger fingers so you can have her holding her weapon. There are a couple issues that I had with it. Like I said, we'll get into those in just a bit. But as far as the other accessories, this I am leaving in the bag. It is a visor thing that goes on her head. It looked really stupid, and to be honest, when I saw the initial photos of the figure, I thought this was part of the head sculpt and was planning on just yanking that head off and using a different one. But since this is not part of it, I'm just going to throw that probably in the garbage and never look at it again. You also get some fire effects for her rocket pack, which is awesome. I'm probably going to end up using these on my Arena War Boba Fett, because I don't think I'm going to have her flying around, and he didn't come with any, so that's kind of a nice little feature there. You get this little back piece, which I'm going to complain about in a bit, so we'll just kind of quickly look at it, and that's good enough. And then you get a really cool blaster rifle. They did a fantastic job with this. I absolutely adore it. However, there is a bit of an issue, which I will also talk about, not with the gun, but with the figure, and we'll kind of get to that as well. Not sure why I'm holding it upside down there. But for the most part, it's a good representation of the Stormtrooper gun. It does have a larger E-clip on it, but that just kind of gives some extra spice to the figure, makes it a little bit more unique. So I kind of like it in that regards. Doesn't have a movable stock, but that's fine. I'm not going to cry about it. Better to not have one than to have one that moves and doesn't actually go the way it's supposed to, like some figures I know. But we'll leave that alone. You do also get an alternate head sculpt in the form of this super cool helmet. Now, I'm not sure if the lighting's going to pick up on it well enough. I'm hoping it is, but the eyes are actually tinted green. It's probably not going to show too well. So she's got more of the Death Trooper visor, which I think is kind of fun. The helmet obviously is not an exact replica of a Stormtrooper one, just since it is a unlicensed figure. They had to take a little bit of liberties with that. But for the most part, they did a pretty cool job with it. Gave it a nice cool look. I certainly like it. I don't think I'll put it on her at any point. I think I'll just have it as an accessory, but definitely nice to have. And it does clip on pretty much with the normal little peg there. As for this figure, come here, darling, you do get a removable rocket pack that just attaches by magnet. Super duper easy, so really was quite happy with that. And it's actually got some good weight to it. I'm going to hopefully not drop it like I normally do, but this thing is pretty darn cool. Doesn't have the rocket on top, but that's alright, I can live without it. And then you can, of course, insert those little fire effects there if you want her flying around. Sadly, she doesn't come with a dynamic stand. You just get this kind of cool Empire Commandos one. So you might want to use a dynamic flight stand if you are having her fly around. I probably will at some point, I'm sure. But as for the actual figure, the head sculpt really did grow on me. Her hair's kind of in the way there. And I do have to play with that a little bit more to get it just the way I'd like it. there you go. But for the most part, I was pretty happy with it. And again, I initially thought I was just going to yank this off and use something else, but it's like a fungus, it grew on me. So the armor itself, I also really like. All of the different pieces are pretty much separate from each other, so kind of a nice perk. They also did a really good job with them as far as actually sculpting it, so they don't slide around too much. You can move these up and down to cover the wrist joint, so essentially as you're swapping out hands or even repositioning them, you just move that up and then move it back down. And one concern I did have with it is this undersuit is basically just a fake leather, and it more than likely will crack over time. So I'm probably going to need to replace this down the road, and at that point I might just get her a full body suit or something of the like. I have no idea what that symbol is supposed to be, so I'm not going to try and come up with an excuse for it. I believe that that's just an attempt at Arabesh, the Star Wars writing. I don't think it's any specific logo that I've seen before, but there are a whole lot in the Star Wars universe, so I might definitely be wrong there. And then you get, of course, the little Empire logo on that side. Moving right down, we'll just kind of go into the good stuff. You do also get the upper thigh guard there on the left side, which I appreciate that they do. Tons of mobility and really, really good joints on this figure. She's got a whole bunch of play. Really can just kind of move her all over. It's a seamless body all the way through. It feels similar to a Phison as far as the actual like touch and such goes, so probably similar like silicone there. But the joints are a lot better than what I would normally see on them. They're pretty tough to move. They stay in play. You actually get ratchets in the legs, so it's definitely a bit different than the standard skeleton, but really good job in that regard. One interesting little tidbit, and I'll pop these off, the feet pegs are square, so don't plan on swapping boots out or giving these boots to anybody else, because it's not going to work. They're also a pain to put back on. You really just have to line it up perfectly and push. They go in perfectly once it's lined up, but if it's not, really doesn't go anywhere. And with that, I'm pretty much just going to jump into the negatives of the figure. First off, back here, you got some fake leather action on this belt. This is definitely going to kind of flake over the years. It's white, so you can honestly just paint over it when that happens. It's probably gonna stain too over time. It's already looking a little bit darker than the rest of it, so I might just paint it, put shoe polish on it, something like that, just to keep it that nice white color. And this is actually one of the first kind of major issues that I had with the figure. This little bedroll backpack thingy, I don't know what it's supposed to be, but the way you're, I believe, supposed to get it on there is to literally slide that under there. I'm terrified that these metal prongs are either going to damage the body or damage the costume, so I'm just not going to use this. You might be able to get it on safely. I would assume that they did their due diligence when product testing and all that stuff to where it's not going to hurt the figure, but I don't trust it. And these aren't overly, stable or anything. There's definitely some play to them, but it is sharp metal, so I mean, I just really see that going bad, and for that reason I'm going to ignore it. The other issue that I have with the figure itself also kind of comes with the belt, and that is this right here, this little holster. So it's really just a functionality problem that I have with it. For the gun to be drawn with the right hand, it would have to be facing this way. And if that were in her holster, that E-clip would be right into her thigh. So there's not really going to be an easy way to get it in there without it sticking out and being all wonky. You might be able to line it up to the point that it's like that. But even then, you're going to be constantly rubbing against the thigh there, which probably isn't good. So more than likely, and even the way it looks, you're probably going to need it inserted into the holster that way, which would be fine if she were cross-drawing, but she's probably not left-handed, so it would just really make for an awkward kind of holster for the gun itself. Just seems kind of not overly well thought out in that regard, which not the end of the world, but just something to kind of be mindful of. It's not really going to sit overly comfortably in there. And really, even if you do have it, kind of tucked in, because it's attached to this little thigh guard, it's probably going to look odd. I played with it for a little bit and just really couldn't get it in there comfortably and gave up. So I'm just going to leave that closed, and then she'll hold the gun when she's going to use it. But for the most part, that was kind of disappointing there. Also, her shorts are the fake leather that this is, same with the underside here. So those might peel over time, which again, if they do, get a bodysuit, put it on her, put the armor pieces over it, bang, bang, boom, you're right back up and running. Now, if you were wondering, I do have Captain Rex nearby, so we'll go ahead, yank him out, do a quick little pause, pose him up side by side just so you can see how she compares to a hot toy. Obviously, the hot toys are going to look a little more movie realistic and stuff like that than this one would. But if you were thinking about adding this to your collection, it never hurts to have a comparison. So I'm going to grab that real quick and we'll get to it. So just as a simple side-by-side comparison, they are honestly scaled up pretty well. Rex, whoa, that could have been a disaster. A little more dirty than she is. I'm surprised I passed that quick time event and managed to make that save. That was a good one for me. I normally don't do that. Definitely dirtier for Rex. He's seen some battle damage over time, some wear and tear, so if you did want them paired up, you might want to do some recoloring, but you certainly can have a whole bunch of fun with these two. You could potentially have her sweeping him off his feet. That's kind of fun. Or you could even go with Lulz with the good old-fashioned groin kick. I'm definitely going to have a lot of fun playing around with these two. I think it'll be a fun little combo to play with. Definitely worth picking up if you're into the weird Star Wars stuff. Like I said, it's third party, so it's not official, but you can certainly play around and have some fun with it. That'll do it for this one. Thank you all so much, as always. Hope you have a great one.